First of all, I think the president's been very clear. He wants to impose tariffs on foreign importers because he wants to bring investment and jobs back to the United States of America. So what I'd say to those business leaders is I think the president has actually been quite clear about what he wants to accomplish: build more in the United States of America, invest more in the United States of America, raise wages for workers in the United States of America, and you don't have to pay these tariffs at all. There is, as the president has said, a recognition that we have to accept, which is that, look, Joe Biden left this economy in a disaster. He ran the highest peacetime deficits we've ever had in this country. He left us with a significant debt crisis. And the president has come in and said, look, we have to accomplish a lot of things simultaneously. We have to bring down inflation, which I think we're making some good progress on. We have to actually ensure critical government services like Social Security and the military function for the American people. And we also have to force businesses to invest more, not overseas, not in Chinese workers, but in American workers.
Talk about President Trump's approval rating. It's actually dropped. I suppose this was inevitable. He was on such a high for months, and now we are starting to see this shift. So Trump's overall job approval rating currently stands at 45%, so it hasn't dropped significantly. But we have also seen, I suppose, this week, US stocks plunge. Wall Street had its worst day of the year on Monday, with the S&P 500 index falling 2.7%, and Bitcoin has also stumbled. What do you make of all of this? I suppose is the market, I should say, reacting to uncertainty? Is Trump doing too much too fast? Was this inevitable, and we're just kind of seeing a period of adjustment?
Yeah, I think all of the above. I mean, everything you said seems correct to me. So Donald Trump was starting in a very high place. His approval rating right out of the gate there in the first month or so was higher than it literally had ever been in his entire first term. So he was already starting on a higher level. And, some sort of correction to the mean was probably bound to happen. Unfortunately, Americans are not a particularly optimistic lot these days when it comes to our country. So we tend to have a more negative than positive view of our elected officials as a general rule. The fact that Donald Trump was actually above water for as long as he was says more about the popularity of his policies and how desperate the American people were to change from the failed policies of the Biden-Harris administration. So it was bound to be some sort of correction to the mean there. Now, the stock market obviously has been in pretty rough shape here for the past few days or so. Maybe that's reaction to some of the tariffs and the trade war. Maybe it's due to other factors there. Is Donald Trump overplaying his hand when it comes to tariffs? Maybe. I mean, look, if I were advising him, I would say, let's cool down a little bit when it comes to a country like Canada. I'm not entirely sure that I see necessarily the overwhelming American national interest in antagonizing our friendly northerly neighbors, especially at a time, frankly, where the Tories, the Conservative Party in Canada, was looking like they were going to win an election this summer. So I'm not entirely sure exactly what's going on there. But, these things ultimately, Gabriella, have a way of sorting themselves out. I will say that in general, I am more sympathetic to tariffs than most of the mainstream commentators here in the United States. Look, are they economically efficient as a general rule? No, but they have other useful functions. Gabrielle, I've spent a lot of time in the Midwest of the United States. I have spent many nights in old Rust Belt towns that have literally been destroyed due to globalism, due to manufacturing supply chains literally shipped out and lost to China. It is important that a country like America not merely seek to minimize prices when it comes to global free trade neoliberalism. It actually is important that we actually make some concrete goods there, that we actually be self-reliant when it comes to everything from pharmaceuticals to semiconductors and the chips that go into our computer and iPhone. So the idea of tariffs, I'm actually deeply sympathetic to. I wholeheartedly support them when it comes to countries like China. I would probably encourage him to use more of a scalpel rather than a cudgel when it comes to a country like Canada. But reasonable minds may vary on this. But overall, I'm pretty bullish still about the direction of the economy. And this is a short-term dip that I think will have a tendency to self-correct.
And on the economy, Trump's first inflation report card is in, and it is better than expected, reversing 4 months of rising inflation. Let's take a look at the CNN analysis.
We have some good news on the economy and really the number one issue for many Americans, the cost of living. So we just learned that consumer prices in February increased by 2.8% year over year, 0.2% month over month. Both of these figures were a step in the right direction and both were better than expected. So this is definitely very encouraging to see because it's going to, I think, relieve some fears that inflation was perhaps re-accelerating, because this actually breaks a streak of 4 straight months where I think you could see it on the chart all the way to the right where the inflation rate was going in the wrong direction, right? It was going higher and higher. Finally, we're seeing it dip.
I always love watching analysis on CNN when it is positive news for Donald Trump. We have to leave it there. We are just out of time. Senior Editor at Large at Newsweek, Josh Hammer, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Gabrielle.